Howdy everyone, it's Sam. I hope you're doing really well. If you're new around here, I hope I can get you to consider liking the content and subscribing to the channel. And if you are a regular around these here parts, thank you so much for the continuous support. Right now is a very special stream. I am previewing the North Queensland Cowboys and Parramatta Eels game happening this Saturday night, round 8, 2022. And to help me get through it all is a gentleman that I've never had on my channel before. He's making his debut off the bench sort of thing. I am so excited. Please make welcome Mr. Rugby League History. Hey man, how you going?
All right, sound as a pound. Glad to be on the show.
Excellent. You were one of the big YouTubers when I started only about a year ago, mate. That was prominent, and you're one of the reasons why I'm just so excited that you're here right now, Dean, mate. And I've gotten to know you a bit more over the year or so now, mate. So I'm really happy that you're here, mate. So it's if I sound like I'm a little bit off my game too, it's 5 o'clock in the morning here. I suppose you got to wake up and get the big interviews and the big fish, sacrifice a bit of your time, but all in good fun, man. Something new. So, Dean, man, can you tell the viewer where you've come from and what's your story, and why is it that Parramatta Eels is the team that you've chosen to barrack for years now, mate?
Well, I was born into a Parramatta household. Pretty much everyone in my family, aunts, uncles, cousins, my mother, my dad, my grandparents were all Parramatta supporters. So it's the club I've always known. I was born in Eastwood, which is a suburb of Sydney. It's about 10 to 15 minutes drive away from where Parramatta Stadium is, or the Western Sydney Stadium. I've just supported them all my life, and even now that I live in England, especially even up until when I used to be able to watch the matches, I'd be up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning watching the games, and I used to be able to do reviews, but I can't do that now. But hopefully that changes in the future.
That's the thing too. You being a rugby league rad rugby league fan, you still stay in contact with the games. So what's it like over there in England for the casual viewer watching this? What's rugby league like overseas, Dean?
If I've noticed, if you live close to a town where they have a team, so if you're close to Leeds or Castleford, or I've noticed when I've been over Merseyside, way close to St Helens, you will see it on the television, or you might see a poster, or you might see people talking about it. But I live in an area which is strictly a football area, so nobody in this town watches or follows rugby league, talks about it. They've got no idea. But it doesn't bother me so much because I'm a massive football fan as well, so I can get by. But I suppose if you lived around here and you were just league only, yeah, you'd be pretty lonely. So nobody to talk to.
And by the way, yes, he also, Mr. Rugby League History also has another YouTube channel, History of Football. The link in the description for both channels will be below. And how much, like, is it hard to get access over there to watch the National Rugby League, Dean?
I think Sky Sports has a contract with the NRL where they show 3 matches a week. So they'll show the Thursday match, they'll show one of the Saturday matches, and then they'll show a Sunday match, and that's it.
And Dean, what do you think? What do you think of the NRL season so far, mate? What have you made of the refereeing, and what do you think of just the general play, mate? What do you reckon of it?
I think the season's gone the way that I thought it would so far. The teams that are up the top of the table are the ones that I've picked to be up the top of the table. And the ones down the bottom, the kind of the ones that I thought would be at the bottom, except for probably Canterbury. I didn't expect Canterbury to be dead last. But now, once again, the refereeing hasn't changed for a number of years. Now there's still the occasional bad call, but what I don't like seeing on social media now is it seems that if your team has a bad match, instead of just accepting it and moving on, everyone goes, it's the referee's fault. So
Yeah, yep. That's what I've seen as well, man. There's a lot of games that have happened this year where there has been a bad referee call, but it hasn't actually cost the side a game, in my opinion. I can't explain it. I couldn't tell you what game it was now, just off the top of my head. But there have been occasions this year and last year where there have been a bad call or two, but there have been fans that have really magnified it. So yeah, that has been disappointing to see as well. So, dude, let's get stuck into it. Let's get stuck into one another sort of thing and reveal our strengths and weaknesses, mate. So, this Saturday evening, in my opinion, this is the game of the round. It's Parramatta Eels versus North Queensland from TIO Stadium up there in Darwin. And I can tell you that coming into the game, or at least 24 hours ago, the North Queensland Cowboys were $4, and waking up this morning, Dean, they've now come into $3.25. So if you got onto the Cowboys at $4 about 24, 48 hours ago, you got really good value out of it. Dean, if you would please be so kind, sir, can you please take us through the Parramatta team list that was announced yesterday?
So at fullback, you got Clint Gutherson. On the wings, you got Hayes Perham and Bailey Simonson. Centre pairing, Will Penasini and Dylan Brown. In the halves, you got Jacob Arthur and Mitchell Moses. Props are Regan Campbell-Gillard and Junior Paulo. Hooker, you got Reid Marnie. Second row was a Sean Lean and Isaiah Papali'i. Lockers, Nathan Brown. And on the bench, you got Makahisi Makatoe, Ryan Matheson, Oregon Kafuse, Bryce Cartwright, and then the extended bench, Wiremu Greg, Mitch Rain, Tom Opacek, Kai Rodwell, Solomon Naiduki, Eli Elzakim, and Luca Moretti.
Well, the first thing that I see there, that for the viewer at home, I don't know if Dean picked it up as well, but Bryce has been spelt Bruce. So that's another misspelling from NRL.com again. So thank you very much for that. That's about the third week in a row that's happened. Dean, man, straight away, what have you made? What do you think about Jacob Arthur being in the 5/8 position and Dylan Brown being in the centres there, man?
A bit of a strange sort of choice there, but I can understand in a way because the backline's been shot even before the year began. Micah Civil was going to be out for 2 to 3 months, and then Sean Russell went down in the first round, and then you have injuries to Wonga Blake and all that. So, especially in the New South Wales Cup, there isn't really too many players I think you could promote. I mean, Opacek does a job. He's now special, but I think, I mean, last week the formation change worked, so I guess Brad Arthur's going to stick with it. But as soon as I saw Jacob Arthur at 5'8", I went, Trevor from Shut the Gates won't be happy.
And he hasn't been. I'll just bring up the overlay one more time. Look, Dylan Brown honestly didn't have much work to do anyway last week. And it's such a weird decision because I think Dylan Brown is easily inside the top 3 best 5/8s in the game at the moment. I think he's had a sensational season. What have you made of Dylan Brown's season so far, Dean?
I thought coming into this year, he really had to step up because coming through the grades, everyone was talking about him. And when he made his first grade debut, there was a lot of hype. And I think last year he only scored, I think it was 2 or 3 tries and did 2 or 3 try assists. And then for the money that he's on, a lot of Parramatta fans out there will go, you have to do more than that to justify that price tag. But yeah, I mean, coming through the grades, I remember New Zealand Warriors, they offered Dylan Brown $3 million over 6 years before he even made an NRL debut. So,
yeah.
But I think this year he's been a lot better, and hopefully that continues. So,
yeah. And moving on to a different player now, Mr. Reid Marnie. Now, there's been so much controversy about this gentleman for the past couple of months now. we know that he signed with Canterbury. How have you assessed Reid Marnie's season so far? Do you think he's played a little bit distracted? Do you think his mind's on the job? What have you made of Reid Marnie, and how do you see his season continuing, mate?
I think he's played very well this year, considering what's happened off the field. I think that he's very, very important in this side. We saw that last year when he wasn't there, what kind of a hole that he leaves in the side. And I can't forgive him for what he's done and for the decisions that he's made. But I think he's vital to this team if they're to do anything come finals or even making the finals.
And this is, and now moving on to a different player as well. Is it fair to say that potentially Clint Gutherson? I think Clint Gutherson is in the running for being the Dally M Captain of the Year. I think Clint Gutherson, while his numbers haven't been out of this world good, I just think his leadership on the paddock so far this year has been so strong. I think he's been one of the better leaders / captains of the year. What have you made of Clint Gutherson, mate?
Clint Gutherson is one of these players where he's not the most talented, and he's not an X factor player, and he might not be the fastest or whatever, but every game he's going to give 110%. And ever since he's sort of been the captain or been the leader of the squad, he's been very good. I was never really a fan of Tim Manor being captain of Parramatta. When Clint Gutherson kind of took over, you could tell he was totally different on the field, and especially that year when we come last, you could tell when we were losing, he took it really, really hard. And I think he's a good leader, and you always know what you're going to get with Clint Gutherson. So I like him as captain.
Wow, yeah. And moving into the interchange bench there, man, I'll just bring it up one more time. I want to give Makahisi Makatoa a rap. I think he's been not like an unsung player or totally overlooked, but I think when he comes on, he just gets into the bullshit work, Dean. And that bench there is massive. So Reid Marnie looks like he's going to play a full 80 minutes without a breather. So going into the bench once more, it's Makatoa, Mattison, Kafusi, and Bryce Cartwright. That's a massive bench, and it's only just hitting me now how massive a bench that is. What have you made of? We know that he made his debut only last year, but what have you made of Makatoa and just his no bullshit approach, man?
Yeah, I like Makahisi Makatoa. He tries really hard, and he does all the hard stuff. And I think he's one of these players where he's had to work incredibly hard just to get a first screen debut. I find with players that they go from multiple different clubs and they might come overseas and they still don't get a go. When they finally do, they take it with both hands and they really appreciate to be in the side, as opposed to someone that's kind of just got in there from an early age and take things for granted type thing. So, yeah, I think he's a good player, Makahisi Makatoa.
And what do you make of that bench? Are you if you were coach, would you have put in a bit of a more mobile player or a smaller player? I know Bryce Cartwright and Ryan Mattison can be mobile and in their own right, but are you happy with the way that bench looks there, man?
I am, but it would have been nice if you look in the crystal ball and see with Marnie leaving at season's end. I think last year we let go of Joey Lussick. Would have been nice to have Joey Lussick on the bench for this match.
I don't think you're necessarily missing him, but if you still had Joey Lussick, he was such a handy player, wasn't he? Yeah. If he was going to fall back, if the Parramatta Eels were going to fall backwards this year, definitely Joey Lussick would have been one of those massive cogs that people would have said that's one of the missing key ingredients for sure. Now, Dean, just before we move on to the other team, are there any sort of stats or any other records that you can bring up for us this morning or today?
Well, there's been 43 matches between the two sides since 1995. 22 wins for Parramatta, 20 loss, and 20 wins for North Queensland. One draw. First ever match between the two sides was May the 6th. In 1995, Parramatta beat North Queensland 20 points to 4 in front of 4,145 fans in Parramatta there. That was the year that we only won 3 matches. North Queensland's biggest ever loss come against North Queensland as well. Our biggest ever win against North Queensland, 62-0, July 29th, 2001. So that's North Queensland's biggest ever loss as a club. And then North Queensland's biggest ever wins over us, July 27th, 2015, we got beaten 46 points to 6. August the 24th, Jonathan Thurston's last ever match in Townsville, we lost 44 points to 6. That was a Spoon Bowl game. We've played each other in 2 finals matches, 2005. We lost 29-0 in front of 44,327 people. I was there. I reckon there was probably about 44,300 Parramatta fans.
Yeah.
And in 2017, that's another finals match. We lost that 24-16. I was at that game as well.
Oh, no.
41,287 showed up to that, and I think there probably would have been about maybe 200 North Queensland fans in the ground. That's just some stats that I researched today.
So there's only a bit of a struck match between the two, being that the Parramatta Eels only have just a couple of more wins over us in the overall head-to-head record. And by the way, that 2017 semi-final, I was there that night as well there, man. So I was number 1 of 200 sort of thing. That's... And it's 62-0. 62-0, hey?
That was in 2001.
That's worse than Black. Well, it's almost as worse or the same level as the Warriors' performance the other day, wasn't it? It struck me pink. But would you say that there's just a... Would you say Eels and Cowboys... I don't know, like, there's... They have had some heated games, like, over the years, man. Like, not anywhere close to that R word, you know, but like there have been some pretty heated contests between the two clubs, haven't there, over the years?
There has, especially with them 2 finals games, and both of them we were supposed to win. North Queensland was supposed to have no chance, and I think also one of the biggest ever comebacks in NRL history happened where North Queensland come from, I think it was 30 points to 6 down with about 20 minutes to go, and they won 36 points to 30.
Yeah.
That would have been 2015, I think.
It was 2015, yes. But I mean, over the past couple of years, though, Parramatta have had our number. Parramatta have won 2 in a row against us, and they've both been big 13-plus victories to the Parramatta Eels as well. So, I mean, coming into the game, it's all going to count for naught. But in essence, what we're trying to get at is that these two sides, they do sort of get up for one another. I do enjoy an Eels Cowboys game for sure, man. Go ahead.
The away form for Parramatta against North Queensland is very poor, though, because I remember some of the matches in Townsville we were losing by 30 or 40 points. We only won 6 times in Townsville since 1995, and I'm not too sure if most of the audience would know, but I lived in Townsville for a few years, and I don't think I ever saw Parramatta win when we were up there. And the funny thing is that whenever Parramatta played there, the ground announcer and the people that were promoting the match used to really give it to us more than any other Sydney side that went up there. I remember a couple of times we'd run out in the field and then they'd be playing like a cash register sound over the PA.
Oh wow!
Because they were trying to imply that Parramatta is this club that's rich and they think they're better than everyone else, and that type of thing. So
Yeah, no, wow, dude. Yeah, well, I knew that you had. I personally, I knew that you had lived in Townsville, but yeah, no, I didn't know that story. Wow, you're true. And also, Parramatta Eels. They're the only team left in the NRL to have not played up at Queensland Country Bank Stadium yet, and so maybe fingers crossed when the 23 draw is released at the end of the year, it says Cowboys and Eels up there at QCB Stadium, sort of thing. So that's still a bit of history to be made as well. So let's get stuck into. Thank you for sharing that, mate. Thank you very much. And let's get stuck into into my boys now. And at fullback is Scott Drinkwater. Our wingers are Murray Tuolangi and Kyle Felt. Centre combination is Valentine Holmes and Peter Hiku. Halves pairing Tom Dearden and Chad Townsend. Chad Townsend as well, ladies and gents. He's playing his 200th NRL game this weekend up in Darwin of all places. I don't think he would have anticipated that to have happened, but all the absolute best of luck to him, and congratulations as well. Jordan McLean and Cohen Hess are our props, with Reece Robson there in at hooker. Hylam Lukey, Nanai, Talmalolo, our other co-captain, form our back row. Our interchange bench reads Jake Garanville, Tom Gilbert, the freshly signed Redcliffe Dolphins Tom Gilbert for 2023, Ruben Cotter and Griffin Neame. And just there on the reserves, there is one mention there is Hamiso Tabuai Fido. That doesn't surprise me that he hasn't been named in the starting 17 as well this weekend. Definitely, I think he would have needed one more week to recover from. I want to just touch on our halves, in particularly Chad Townsend. Last week, in my opinion, I thought Chad was our man of the match simply because of his leadership and his organisational play. He was responsible for a try assist. He kicked the ball 10 times for 336 metres. And Tom didn't kick the ball once, whereas Scott Drinkwater actually came in and did a lot of kicking as well. And this is sort of a matchup that I want to talk about as well with you a little bit later too. I think the kicking game, or the kicking game within this game, is going to be such an attractive feature to this match. I think the kicking game is going to be massive as far as getting the win. I think Chad Townsend's really brought just a really cool level-headedness, but also just that missing leadership that we had been missing. Not to say that Talmalolo wasn't offering it, but I do think Chad Townsend's come in and been a massive help. And I'd like to ask you, Dean, mate, how have you assessed the halves pairing of Tom Dearden and Chad Townsend so far this year?
I think they've been very good this year so far. I don't think a lot of people expected too much of them, to be fair. There was a few people out there that thought North Queensland would come last this year or down towards the bottom. I think Chad Townsend gets unfairly sort of targeted sometimes on social media there. At the end of the day, he's one of 17 players that can say that they're in a Cronulla side that won a grand final.
Yeah.
All the other players from 1967 up until that moment hadn't won a premiership, and he was in that starting lineup, and he's been in some big matches, and he's pretty experienced. 200 games now, so.
Yeah, and I want to ask you about the. I want to ask you. Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead. Oh, there's something wrong with my audio?
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Sorry.
No, I can't.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, true. Sorry about that, Dean. Sorry about that, guys. We'll move forward now without the headphone usage. Thank you so much for telling me that, by the way, mate. So I want to move into the big hard question for the Cowboys now, bro. Hamiso Tabuai Fido, mate, and Scott Drinkwater. How would you, if you were the coach, I hate to put you in a position, but what would you do with the Cowboys' headache at the moment with Hamiso Tabuai Fido and Scott Drinkwater. How would you organise it, mate?
Uh, it's going to be really hard if somehow he is named as sort of the last moment, because our backline's already kind of stretched. We don't really have we got some replacements in there. We don't have what we'd like to have in the backline, but I think I'd prefer if Tabby Fedor wasn't playing in this match, but if he isn't there, we just have to contain him somehow, along with Valentine Holmes and Kyle Felt. We just have to do our best, like we did last week against Newcastle.
Yep, for sure. And one of the stats coming into the game, this game features 2 of the best 5 post-contact meter eaters so far in 2022. Jason Taumalolo versus Isaiah Papali'i. Not directly, Taumalolo being the lock and Papali'i being the second rower. Taumalolo, man, I think, even from me, I'll admit, I think last year Taumalolo was unfairly overly criticised. His body let him down for the first time in his entire career last year. He was in a side that, you know, had Michael Morgan retire and Justin O'Neill retire sort of halfway through the season, or start of the season, as it were. And I think Jason Taumalolo, the calls of him being not a good leader anymore, or not doing what's required of him on such a big pay packet, I think they were sort of that he was unfairly targeted, I guess. But how have you made of Jason Taumalolo's past couple of years, Dean?
They've been very, very good. He's really important to that North Queensland side. I think they really struggle without him. He's vitally important, and I think that's why North Queensland put such a heavy investment in him over that period of time, and paid him the money that he's on, because it would have been even worse if he had all them players injured and then he wasn't there as well.
Oh, yeah, it would have been disastrous. So let's move now more into the game now, man. If you're the Parramatta coach, and you being a well-knowledged and well-versed fan as well, bro, how do you think Parramatta are going to get this win this weekend on Saturday? And do you think the Darwin temperatures are going to be a factor in this game?
I think in order for us to win this game, we have to just hold onto the ball, complete the sets, get some good field position from the kicks from Moses. The kicks have to be good. If I was Brad Arthur, I'd be saying, make sure when you're kicking that ball downfield, don't kick it down the throat of Felt, or potentially if Tabby Fedor or whoever's there, don't kick it down their throat. Try to make that ball bounce and make them turn around and chase it, and let's pin them down there. And I think because that's over the years, that's been one way that we've been losing matches, is through, I think it's just switching off, poor handling errors, not being committed in defence. I think rugby league sometimes is an easy game, and I think when you really think about it, and if you can just do the basics right, you'll go a long way to winning. But as I've said to you before this video, I wish Parramatta would probably pick a better opponent when it comes to playing the match in Darwin. We picked the side that knows the heat better than any team in the competition, and Darwin, I think, is even hotter than Townsville. Darwin's always 34 degrees every time I check the weather. So
yeah. And also I think one of the keys for we're just going to go back and forth now. One of the keys for this game is, I looked up just before we came on, mate. North Queensland are well entrenched in the worst 5 in the competition so far as conceding penalties. Whereas conversely, Parramatta are so well disciplined in that regard. Parramatta Eels are 3rd best as so far as not conceding penalties as well. And when you factor in that and this is a player I'd like for you to touch on as well, mate. Mitch Moses is leading the competition by a really large margin, actually, as far as try assists. He's got 13 try assists, whereas second place has got about eight try assists so far. So Mitch Moses and his connection with the rest of his team at the moment, mate. Moses is having a really strong start to 2022.
He is. I think he's maturing well as a player. I think he's getting better every year, slowly but surely. I don't think that he'll ever be probably the level of like a Nathan Cleary or one of these type of players, but certainly he's been through a lot at Parramatta since he's been at the club, and he's been through some very good moments and some very bad moments. Like if you remember the match against South Sydney where he missed the goal from right in front and they go down the other end and score. But I think he's come back well from that moment, because most players probably wouldn't get over something like that. But I think especially this year he's been very good, and his kicking's been very good in some of the matches as well.
Yeah, yeah. And also this game is it features two of the best five teams when it comes to possession-wise. Whether the Parramatta are a little bit worse as far as completion rates go, but as far as possession goes, both these sides, once they get onto the ball, they really make use of it. And if they are struggling to get to the ball, they usually find a way to get it and really utilize it and make sure they score points from it. Parramatta, man, they are such a I think they are a top four chance. I do think that they are a premiership chance as well, Parramatta Eels. It's just that for me, I think where we can possibly start to get a bit of headway this weekend is that there's still this. It's not 25 minutes anymore. So to their credit, Parramatta have reduced it, but I think there's still this 10 to 15 minute period every game that Parramatta Eels just sort of just go wanting. Is that a fair comment to make, or do you disagree?
I would agree with that, because I've noticed since Brad Arthur's been head coach, it seems 9 times out of 10 we can see the try right before half time, or about 5 to 10 minutes before half time. That's something I've known just personally.
Yeah. Yep. And just this weekend, man. Both Cowboys and Parramatta. Who is it that you're really looking forward to seeing play the most, and who do you think is going to be that player to really orchestrate the win this weekend, mate?
I think if Parramatta is to win, I think Moses and Marnie and Junior Paulo as well. I find when Junior Paulo's on, he's really hard to stop, and he's really hard to bring down, gets the ball away, offloads, things like that.
Yeah.
For North Queensland, some of the players in the back line will be, I guess, hard to stop. Well, if they get close to that try line, I think Reece Robson's a good player. I think he's someone that's been pretty important in North Queensland since he's come there. He's displaced Jake Granville, who was the number 9 there for years. And some of the players, like I think Jeremiah Nana is playing as well. He's another player that you have to watch out for. So it's going to be a very tight match.
Yeah, I think so as well, man. I think this is going to be a really tight. I think it's more of a question if North Queensland show up more than it's a question of whether or not Parramatta will show up. I think it was only about 3 weeks ago that North Queensland got absolutely pumped by another top 4 threat in the Sydney Roosters sort of thing. So this is another. It's like a redemption chance or a shot at redemption. As far as seeing if we can hang out with a big dog and I do consider Parramatta in 2022 a big dog. I think a factor that I'm worried about for my boys, or bloke, is Jeremiah Nanai himself. I know he's having a good start to the year, but he's inside the top 5 as so far as players that miss the most tackles. He's going to be, off the top of my head, he's coming up against Ryan Matteson and Dylan Brown's side as well. So there's going to be not only some hard running coming his way. I think he's going to have Nathan Brown and Dylan Brown also running lots of different angles at Jeremiah Nanai. And so Chad Townsend and Jeremiah Nanai's inside forward man, which I think will be Jordan McLean, they've really got to help out this young man, because if Dylan Brown can weave his magic and expose Jeremiah Nanai, it's just going to be a highway down Jeremiah Nanai's lane sort of thing, man. So that's my concern for the North Queensland Cowboys, but it's not going to happen because the Cowboys this weekend, let's get into our tips now, man. This weekend, the Cowboys are going to get their biggest win in a couple of years, bro, and they're going to beat the Parramatta Eels in I think, a relatively low-scoring affair. I think the conditions up there in Darwin are going to make them play sort of safety first footy. I don't think it will be as extravagant, unfortunately, even though I'm sure Parramatta will get the offload off. I'm sure Parramatta will get an offload off, especially with Parlo playing in there as well. I think Cowboys can win this one. A close one, man. About 20, I think 20 points to 16, I would say. And I think an anytime try scorer, Parramatta are so strong across the park, man. So I think it's going to have to be a bit of Scott Drinkwater magic to break their line. So I'll go Scott Drinkwater, anytime try scorer, 20 points to 16 to the Cowboys this weekend, Dean. Over to
you. So I think with this match, Parramatta has a good record up there in Darwin. We've played there since 2014. We've got 6 wins and 1 loss, which is against North Queensland. And this is the 3rd meeting in Darwin between North Queensland and Parramatta. It's 1 apiece at the moment. I think it'll be a sellout there, because I think with both sides playing well and with both sides having good support up that way, I think it'll be a sellout. I see it being a really close match. I just hope Parramatta turn up with the right mentality, because I was watching the Phil Gould podcast on Channel 9. He said Parramatta have these performances in them where they just don't show up, and they're exposed against West Tigers there. But yeah, I'll go with Parramatta to win by 6 points.
Yeah.
And I can see Reid Marnie scoring another try, because he's done it quite often this year where he's been backing up when someone makes a line break. So I'll go for Reid Marnie to score a try.
Nice. Do you think this is the game of the round? Do you think this is the game of the round?
I do personally think it's the game of the round. There's a couple of other matchups. If this was 2003, 2004, Eastern Suburbs against Canterbury probably would have been the game of the round, but times have changed and Canterbury are not up there anymore. But I mean, that's a big. I consider that a big rivalry. But yeah, I'd probably have to see North Queensland and Parramatta definitely 3rd against 5th. I think it is so.
Yep. How good, man? How good. Rugby, ladies and gentlemen, this has been rugby league history. This has been the Parramatta Eels, North Queensland Cowboys round 8 game preview. I'm glad that I got to do this with you, man. Thank you so much for your time. Are there any videos coming out on the History of Football channel or Rugby League History channel coming out in the next couple of days, Dean?
Well, I've got the View from the North podcast with Just Rugby League. That's tomorrow. We recorded at 8 o'clock at night, our time, but it'll be 6 o'clock in the morning in Australia. But You can just tune into that later. But we'll be doing the second episode tomorrow. That's the View from the North podcast. And yeah, I'll probably be doing some more videos for the history of the football channel, like forgotten, well, old stadiums, forgotten stadiums. There's a couple more ideas I got, and of course, if there's any developments with Everton, I'll be doing videos about that again. So,
yep, definitely, and I'll be there tuning in, man. I just think you're. I think you're one of, if not the best, rugby league YouTube content creator, Dean. I genuinely mean that. I don't mean to embarrass you or sound like I'm pumping up your tires, mate, but I genuinely do believe that you're one of the better NRL YouTube content creators out there, bro. I thank you so much for your time, mate. And by the way, that View from the North podcast, I'll actually link description to Just Rugby League's channel in the description box below as well. So shout out to Just Rugby League as well, mate. He's only a gentleman that I only started to watch and get to know just this year as well, man. So, and I'm enjoying him watching NRL more and more because he's got like not a limited knowledge, but he's still learning more and more about the Australian side of rugby league. So no, shout out to Just Rugby League. Links to all three channels are in the description box below. Rugby League history. Thank you so much for joining me again. I'm glad I got on at 5 a.m. this morning, mate. But I think I'm going to go hit the fart sack again now, bro. For sure. Have a very nice weekend to you. Have a very nice weekend to you, the viewer, as well. I'll catch you all in the next one. Thank you so much. Adios, everyone.
Tatty bye.